Hello, and welcome to Federal Flash. I'm Nikki McKinney, and I'm joined by Jason Amos. Today we'll focus on the budget deal in Congress and President Trump's budget proposal for fiscal year 2019, as well as his recently released infrastructure plan. For a rundown of the budget deal, let's turn to Jason.
Thanks, Nikki. It's good to be here. After several months of near shutdowns and actual shutdowns, Congress passed a bill last Friday to fund the federal government until March 23rd. Of most interest to education advocates is the inclusion of $131 billion over 2 years to boost domestic spending. Decisions about how much of this additional funding will go to education programs will be made between now and March 23rd as Congress negotiates a bill to fund the federal government for the remainder of the fiscal year. Thanks,
Jason. On the heels of that deal, President Trump released his budget request for federal agencies and programs for fiscal year 2019. It is important to remember that the budget request is not a binding document and primarily is used as a messaging tool. However, it does provide important information on where the President wishes to see federal resources directed. Overall, the President's budget provides $63.2 billion in discretionary funding for the U.S. Department of Education. That's a 5% decrease below the 2017 enacted level. The budget request maintains current funding levels for Title I, special education, and career and technical education, eliminates funding for several large K-12 programs, including comprehensive literacy development grants, Title II grants to support teacher professional development, after-school programs, and the Title IV-A grants that are designed to provide flexibility to districts in addressing particular needs, including programs aimed at health and safety, well-rounded education, and the effective use of education technology. The budget also proposes new funding for a $1 billion Opportunity Grants program for private and public school choice and a $43 million School Climate Transformation Initiative to help school districts address the opioid epidemic. The President also requested $500 million in federal charter school funding, nearly doubling the program's funding level. Use the link below to read the President's budget request for the Education Department.
In addition to rolling out his budget request, the President also released his long-awaited infrastructure plan, which includes several implications for education. Part 4 of the plan focuses on workforce development and lays out the President's priorities for a reauthorization of the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, or CTE, and builds on principles included in his budget request. Specifically, the plan calls for directing more funding to high schools to promote strategies such as work-based learning and dual enrollment, expanding apprenticeships, increasing high-quality programs in high schools by promoting science, technology, engineering, and math CTE offerings, allowing states to pool funds to create regional centers that support multiple districts in partnership with local businesses and other community stakeholders, targeting funds more heavily towards disadvantaged students, and increasing the minimum award to school districts from $15,000 to $50,000. Of note, there were no explicit resources for refurbishing, renovating, or constructing schools included in the plan. Visit the link below to read the plan. Also of note, the Senate Education Committee is working on the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act and is seeking comments. You can submit your comments by Friday, February 23, 2018 by emailing highereducation2018@help.senate.gov.
Before we close, the Alliance for Excellent Education would like to extend our thoughts and prayers to the students, teachers, and families of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, the site of the 18th school shooting since the start of 2018. We can talk about implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, college access and affordability, or expanding opportunities for all students. But does any of it really matter if a child doesn't come home alive at the end of the school day? That's all for now. For an alert when the next episode of Federal Flash is available, email us at alliance@allfored.org. Thanks for watching. Federal Flash is the Alliance for Excellent Education's video series on important developments in education policy in Washington, D.C. in 5 minutes or less.